Welcome back to another episode of Straight to the Point. Today, I'm really excited to have on somebody that inspires me every single day. A very, very close friend of mine, someone that I've been working with for, I reckon, just over a year now. I think it's coming up actually more closer to 18 months, I think, than a year. Somebody that has helped me no end in terms of helping me become the best version of myself. Ironically, she's actually a client of mine that's probably helped me more than I've helped her. I'm sure she may counter argument that throughout this episode. However, I'm getting it out there first, so I automatically start to win. The Queen of Mojo, Jo Britton, welcome to Straight to the Point.
Hello, Chris.
How are you?
What an intro. I'm good. Yeah, you?
I'm very good, thank you. Not too bad. Just back from the office. I've actually got my Mojo mug out today.
Snap. I've got
there
my
you
Mojo
go.
mug as well, the girly version.
But I mean, Jo, obviously, I know who you are. You've been working very, very closely with me for just over, like I say, just under 18 months. But to give some context to everybody listening, whether you're in the car or on YouTube, wherever it is that you're tuning in from, do you mind giving a little bit of an introduction to yourself? Who are you? Where have you come from? What's your background?
Well, you know I'm all about the Mojo. So whether that's bringing Mojo to your business, to your marketing, Mojo marketing, or to your personal and professional life, really. I'm a former corporate marketing director, a certified personal performance coach, and I always get this one in, the UK's first and only neurosculpting practitioner, which is this awesome way of rewiring your brain for success and releasing all that inner chit chat that goes on and holds you back. And it's this combination of kind of marketing experience, performance coaching and neurosculpting that's actually helping lots of business owners like yourself, teams, leadership in organizations to actually get really transformational results, but without burning themselves out in the process.
Yeah, it was that neurosculpting part, which I think really grabbed my interest when we started talking, because you originally came onto one of my challenges. And then when I started to hear about what you did, I was like, this is a bit of me, because I'm all about like psychology. How does the brain work? How do I like maximize performance? How do I be better? Then I remember seeing a post that you did on Instagram, which it was you holding up your brain symbols, holding that up. And I was like, this is just a little bit like, this is a bit of me. But I mean, how did you get into it? Because you went from a marketing background into this being the only practitioner of this stuff. How did you get into it? What was the journey that you went on?
It's quite a journey, and it might be one that a lot of people relate to, especially if they've had a corporate career that they've burnt out in, because that was me really. So I kind of worked my way up through the ranks. I'd been in a number of different positions. I started in cold calling telesales really in the old days when there were phone directories, and you got the supervisor pulled out the Smiths in the phone book and you had to call them and get so many confirmed appointments. It was really character building. Worked in business development, but then latterly in marketing, and had always been a high achiever really. But there was always something in me that held me back. So I had lots of ambitions, like an ambition to, like since I was a kid, an ambition to have my own business. I didn't used to look up to, like celebrities as much or pop stars. I used to kind of like look up to business people, which, when you're a kid, you don't really tell. Well, I didn't tell people that because they looked at me quite weird, really, if I said it. But things like that, it always held me back. And I'd also worked in quite a lot of very male-dominated industry sectors as well. And often I was the only woman in the room. And for me, what I think happened was I felt the need to continuously prove myself all of the time. And so what happened was I worked and worked and worked. So I would be, traveling the UK every day, working in a different city, up at like 4 a.m, back at 9 p.m, do it again the next day. And eventually I burnt myself out without realizing it. I was in and out of the GP with all sorts of things, like my heart. I ended up going for lots of heart scans, which was quite scary. I came out in lots of rashes and hives, and I had visual migraines and all of this stuff. The GP kept saying, we can't find anything wrong with you. You're stressed. And I was like, I'm not stressed. I've had my DNA done actually recently. And it's turned out that I can tolerate warrior levels of stress. So in my head, I did not feel stressed, but it was coming out in my body. Anyway, this kind of continued. Eventually there was I was running massive projects, big digital transformation, big marketing and brand transformation, campaigns, lead generation. I was the go-to person in the organization because everybody wanted leads. And, if you've worked in that way, you've worked in sales and you've got in marketing and you've got to feed a hungry sales team, you'll know what it's like. And you probably know from your business and the kind of stuff that you deliver for your clients. So there was a lot of pressure and demand. And then just one day I just thought, why am I doing this? I'm killing myself doing it. And there was a bit of a values clash where I was and the environment, which I won't go into. And I just decided I'm going to leave, but I didn't have a plan. I did what people tell you not to do. Like they always say, like, well, maybe start up a business on the side, or, I just didn't. I just left. And I thought, what am I going to do? But I'd always, I think, been able to get the most out of people, and I enjoy that. I'm working with people. So I kind of set up my business, Pace Development, combining kind of marketing consultancy, but also with performance coaching. And I had an amazing first year in business. And then the pandemic hit. And with it, the rug was pulled from under me, and had a huge pipeline and contracts coming up, and literally everybody pulled them. 17th of March is etched in my brain. It was email and phone call after phone call and email saying, sorry, we're not going ahead. Or then I'd done work and people had disappeared, and I've still to this day not got paid for it. And I completely spiraled into this mass anxiety where I couldn't eat. I couldn't properly get out of bed. I couldn't function. I was crying all the time. My confidence took a massive hit. I got really angry because I didn't qualify for like any of the government support. I was so frustrated and angry. I was like, oh my God, I've paid all my taxes. And the only thing I could do at the time, if I furloughed myself, was pay my corporation tax and, all of that stuff. I remember sobbing to my mum one day saying, I've really lost my mojo, right? This was the start of Mojo. And it was more than that, quite honestly. But because it was the start of the pandemic and I was highly anxious, I couldn't get in the GP either because everything was kind of closed and it's priority COVID. And I just thought there's got to be another way. And there's no coincidence, I don't think, as to why. I started doing a lot of soul searching. Why is it that I burn myself out, that I suffer with huge anxiety and stress on the body? And actually realised it was the stories that I was telling myself, like every day, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, everyone's better than me. All of that kind of stuff I was accessing automatically without thinking about it. And that was driving my behaviour, actions and results. And it was keeping me really, really stuck. And so with not much else to do during the pandemic, I started researching a lot of the neuroscience as a way to help myself move forward because I was so stuck. And I just kind of put myself through my own little boot camp of things that I did every day, which literally started with gratitude. You're waking up, your breath is breathing itself, right? That was literally got me through like day one. And then it was get up and have a shower and get dressed. It was like, if I can do that every day for the next 5 days, that's an achievement. And then it was get dressed, put your makeup on, my trademark sort of red lipstick, feel better about yourself, because I was wandering around the house, looking in the mirror, looking shocking, and that, wasn't doing me any good. And then it was do one thing, whatever it is, take a small piece of action just to do something. So I started to do that. And actually I combined this over probably over 14 days, I started to feel a bit better. And that helped me start to innovate my business, which is how then I discovered you actually. And on one of my pandemic walks, listening to a podcast that you were on, and I kind of thought I need to find a new audience, a new market. I hadn't been on Instagram because all my stuff had been corporate before that. And I'd kind of fallen out with them because they didn't pay me and they wiped my contract, So I thought I'll go on Instagram. I'd never been on Instagram before, apart from, stalking a couple of celebrities and that kind of thing. And, at first you think, I'll just post a few things. And you're like, there's got to be more to it than this. I heard you on a podcast. I thought, you're actually talking sense compared with a lot of people that you see, they just try and dress up all this stuff, and all this mystery. You made it really, really simple. And actually, you were, and I made myself connect with people that I thought I had nothing in common with, i.e. you were one of them, a 27-year-old or 26 you were at the time, entrepreneur on Instagram, you know, looking like you're smashing it. So I've got nothing in common with him. I'll go and connect with him just for some inspiration. It's kind of how it started. And then I created a method out of it. So Mojo is actually a method that's based in kind of neuroscience and psychology that you can apply to anything really, to yourself, to your business, to your marketing campaigns, anything. So yeah,
I think I'd be doing a disservice if I now didn't ask what is that method, because I remember helping you go through this process of kind of building your brand, right, getting you out there, and you get better results than what I bloody do. It's like it's ridiculous how hard I try for this stuff. But Mojo is something which I think is genius, right? I mean, I am so bought into what you do. So I think it'll be really, really good. Can you talk us through like the methodology itself? How did you come up with it? And like, what is it? Because it's an abbreviation, I hope.
It is an abbreviation. It's a framework, isn't it? Because
it is. What is it?
You help me with, like, frameworks are really important, actually, aren't they? For when you're building a product or service and you kind of don't know really where to start because you've got all these ideas and you do stuff. But actually, when you put it in a framework, it really helps. So you inspired me to do that on the basis that I had found my mojo. So yeah, you can apply it to anything really. I started applying it to myself and working with clients. It's kind of a shorthand for high impact performance, but Mojo stands for M is motivation. So how do you find and sustain your motivation? Because you kind of need your mojo and your motivation, your energy, your enthusiasm to show up online, to build your business, you know, all of those things, you kind of need that stuff. O stands for overcoming obstacles, because let's face it, when you're running a business or whatever in your career, you are going to face like massive hurdles and obstacles, and your success, I believe, and raising your game depends on your ability to overcome obstacles. So there are lots of techniques that I use to help people do that, whatever that obstacle is, if it's a business one, if it's a marketing one, if it's a personal one. J is joyful positivity. So this is because I get really fed up with people, you know, if you're feeling really down, it's really hard to pick yourself up. And yet you will get people who say to you, all very well-meaning advice, well, you just need to think positively. And, you know, people said that to me when I was like at my lowest point. And it's like, well, don't you think I'm trying? You know, and there's a reason why positivity is so hard, is because it's not hardwired into us as human beings, whereas negativity is, or negativity bias is, because it's there to keep us safe and alive. So positivity is a luxury. It's not hardwired. So we have to work really, really hard at it. So J is all about how do you move from feeling really negative and in a funk into being more positive about things. So lots of techniques that I use with people to do that. And one easy thing for you to do, if anybody's feeling like this at the moment, is to ask yourself the question, is this possible? You know, whatever it is that you're trying to do, is this possible? The answer is generally yes, because somebody else has done it. Okay, so if it's possible, how do I make that possible? And as you start to do that, you start feeling better. And you start to move towards positivity. And then O is action taking, because you know me, we talked about this a lot. I have lots of opinions on views on these things, on things like the law of attraction and all of that, where people are manifesting, but they're not taking action, right? So your ability to achieve things depends on your ability to take action. So how do you do that? How do you get yourself, you know, give yourself a bit of oomph to take action? So that's kind of the method, and it applies to what I've learned is it applies to anything that you're doing. So whether it is in your business, if you're trying to start a business, so I've worked with startups or people who are trying to start up, and we apply the Mojo method. Whether you're trying to generate more sales, whether you're trying to generate more leads, whether you're trying to scale your business, whether you want a new job, it applies to everything. So yeah, that's what Mojo is all about.
It's fascinating because there's a couple of things that I've picked up on. It'd be good to go into a bit more detail on, actually, because I remember I was listening to a podcast, I sent it to you actually, the one with Stephen Bartlett and Mojo, and they were talking about happiness and something that they study quite a lot. And it's something that I've always had like in the back of my brain. It's something that I've always triggered, even when my first business went completely arse over tip. Right? I still knew that it was a choice as to whether I was going to let it completely crush me or whether it was going to be the trigger to go on to do something better. And I've always been very much a solution-based person. So there's no problem that I can't overcome. There's always a way. If I want to do it, I'll find a way to do it. And I think that joyful element of what it is that you're talking about there is making the conscious decision to say, like, do you know what, I'm going to be happy today. And I've had some pretty shit days over the last 6 to 12 months. It's been proper tough, from people passing away to business potentially like taking a bit of a slip to friendships deteriorating. It's been difficult, right? And it could have been so easy, bearing in mind we've just come out of a pandemic, to like go back into a hole and go, the world's against me and everything's going wrong and everything like that. But I made the decision. I remember us having conversations around this and making that conscious decision to go, you know what, that might be happening. But with everything negative that's happening, I'm a strong believer in there's always an equal and an opposite reaction. So there's always something positive to take from a negative. So whether it was my first business completely crashing, that opened up opportunities to do something new. And I wouldn't be here today if that hadn't have happened. So something like that, like my granddad passing away, I talk about this a lot in what I do. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had the trigger to realize that life was too short to then go out there and do something positive. So it was the beginning of everything for me. And this is where I think actually the power of choice and understanding how your brain works becomes something which is more powerful than I think anybody can quite contemplate, because we have full control. And that podcast really did it for me into the way that they explained it. But the conversations that we've had have helped no end in regards to it. I mean, I'm kind of guiding your answer here, but do you believe that that happiness concept is a choice? Do you think people do have a decision as to whether they're going to be happy, or do you think there's a balance to it in the way that the brain works? What's your overall opinion on it?
Well, look, sometimes something really shit will happen, won't it? Like it will be a life-changing moment. Maybe somebody close to you has died, you've been in an accident, there will be things that happen that, oh, I'm so happy. I'm really, So, I mean, I think I prefer, I do get that. I do believe in choice, that whatever is going on, we have a choice that we can make. We can either choose to stay in a funk, to feel sorry for ourselves, although I also believe in hippo time as part of that as well. So that's not to say this bad shit happens to you and you've got to automatically be full of mojo. If you need hippo time, take hippo time out. But remember, hippo time is temporary, right? So I kind of live by that, because there'll be days, may even not be like things that are massive that have happened, but you've been promised this deal by a client and suddenly like it falls away, and it's really easy, isn't it, for you to get into like a spiral of, oh my God, so I take a bit of hippo time out for that. But I do believe in choice, and I do believe that optimism is really important. So there have been loads of studies that optimistic people live much healthier, happier lives. So if you can choose optimism over everything, then it's going to stand you in good stead.
It's quite powerful. I've not really thought about that, but I'm definitely more of an optimist than a pessimist. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's always opportunity in everything. Again, it's just what I spot a lot of the time. But I mean, let's cut to it here, right? There are very much tough moments that people go through. This last 2 years has been an absolute shitstorm. Like it's been an absolute nightmare for people, whether they're in business or personal. It's been difficult. I mean, I'm very much living first world problems here when it comes to the fact that I've not been on holiday this year. And that really annoys me, the fact that I've not been. But there is so much more worse things that could have happened, right? When you get into those situations, how do you overcome them? Or even potentially how would you take somebody through that? Because again, I'm assuming there is a process to overcoming and it's not just clicking your fingers and saying, do you know what, I'm just going to make a change and this is it. I don't believe, I don't know, right? I'm not an expert in this sort of thing. But I mean, what is the process? If somebody now is listening to this and they are struggling, what is the process that we take them through to be able to get to a point where, do you know what, they're feeling ready to go after it again?
Well, I think there isn't one process. This is the point, and this is what bugs me quite a lot about them. And maybe we'll talk about this later, about a lot of these online coaches who say, you know, I found the process, you just need to apply it and you'll make millions like me. To be fair, Chris, sorry, I'm going to swear, but it's utter bollocks. Everybody's different. You're all coming from a different position, and this is where the neuro stuff like kicks in for me. We've all got different stories and experiences and patterns and scripts that we are navigating the world from, right? So for you, some of yours, if you're a natural optimist, helps you get through, because you can see, maybe for you, every problem is an opportunity in disguise to do something. But for other people who may have had other traumas that have happened to them, it's just really, really difficult. So a few things that have helped me is all that I can share, because unless I get to know you as an individual, I'm not going to say follow steps A, B, C, D, right? Even though we apply Mojo method. For me, when I was feeling sorry for myself, bearing in mind I have a lovely house, my husband's working, had my health and all those things at the time, but was in a real funk. It was go and find some inspiration. And what really triggered it for me was that, do you remember Captain Tom, or he became Sir Tom, didn't he?
Collapse of the Garden.
Yeah, that was literally a defining moment for me, where I was like, my God, he's 100 years old doing this, and I am sitting here moping around. He was a massive inspiration to me. It was also excuse me, being surrounded by people that could inspire me, that could challenge me, that could champion me and support me, but understood what it was like. So as a business owner at the time, going through what I was going through, I didn't know anybody else going through it, because I'm the only person in my family that has a business. You know, family, friends, or whatever, they mean well, but they don't get it. So purposely and purposefully for me, I went out to find people and become part of communities. Yours was one of them, which helped me massively, because we were all trying to do the same thing and people get it. Okay. Yeah. So there were things like that. Connecting with people is massively important. This is why the pandemic's been really, really difficult, because we're social beings as human beings. We are meant to be connected, and we've just not been able to, to do that. So connecting, even though I didn't feel like it, and I actually developed a lot of social anxiety during the pandemic, which actually is not me. If you know me, I'm quite an energized sort of extrovert character. Yeah. I'm the person that, we turn up at a meeting and I'm like arms around you, hugging you, aren't there? And people are going like that, but for me, actually developed social anxiety where, to the point where I didn't want to turn up even on a Zoom call and stuff. And I used to run my own network event and I just couldn't do it, so I think there are lots of different ways. It's finding what is going to work for you, but also it's actually, the power is recognizing that beliefs and stories that we have that we're not aware of, we're accessing automatically as our navigation script. That means that we can react rather than respond to things in a productive way. So when you work on those things, you will find more naturally you've got more mojo, and you've got more resilience, and actually you see the world differently, and all of those things. So that's why I'm a massive believer in the power of understanding how we're wired as human beings and what experiences you've had that you bring to your life and your business every day, and what you can do to re-script them using the same science that has scripted them in the first place.
Makes sense. So I'm dying as the drink's gone down the wrong way of my throat.
Oh dear.
Excuse me. But no, I think when I think back to where I've got to, and there's still loads and loads of places where I want to get to in business and in life, the thing that I think was the toughest to kind of overcome was accepting that I'm responsible for everything. And that was the toughest part, was that I very much it's completely going off in a tangent, but you triggered a story, and I'm going to tell it because it's important to me as well. Excuse me. But it was back when a lot of stuff was changing in my life, to be fair. Business was going downhill, like without a shadow of a doubt. I'd made the decision to go elsewhere. And one of the things which was difficult was the fact that I had a blaming culture in me, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I always thought, well, it's their fault. They made the decision. It's on them. This is happening to me because of their decisions. Or if it was the fact that I put on a bit of weight over the time, oh, well, gym's shit. Like what I'm eating, my body's broken. Like I've just got a slow metabolism. I had a blaming mentality all the time. And I remember going and listening to a talk. I can't remember who did it, and it's going to bug me until I remember who it was. But I remember listening to it, and they basically came out and said is that no matter who you are, whatever is happening to you, you're responsible not for the fact that it's happening, but how you react to it. So it was at that point that I realized actually that, yes, my business had gone downhill, but actually when I thought about it in detail, it's because I'd taken my eye off it. I'd been distracted by something else, different business idea going off. And because I've taken my attention away, boom, that sort of thing happened because I wasn't giving it the attention it deserved. When it comes to my own health, like I'm in a routine at the moment. I'm about day 13 into like daily exercise, eating well. Surprise, surprise, I'm 9 pounds down. Right, I've taken responsibility rather than blaming lockdown and the fact that I'm just not feeling up to it and giving myself every single excuse under the sun. I've now accepted responsibility and gone, do you know what? Like I've got control of this in what I do. And I think sometimes I've worked with loads of different people, not on this subject, but in business. And I know when they come to me and they're like, I'm not too sure why this is happening. I keep trying everything you're telling me, Chris. Like, yeah, I'm doing as I'm told. Like I'm putting in, and like I'm still not getting the results. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen. This stuff takes time, and you need to realize that. And you can't blame anybody for the fact that it's not worked for you yet, but it might have worked for somebody else. Like not everybody. We'll talk about your personal brand, no doubt in a second. We'll come on to it, but not everybody's got a 30,000 view video on LinkedIn right now. I've not had it. It's like, well, you need to stop comparing yourself to where you are, right, to where somebody else is, because all of our stories are unique. And I did a post on this only a week and a bit ago around every single person's journey is unique. But actually, the only thing you've got control of as an individual is whenever something positive or negative happens to you, is making a conscious decision of how you react and what you then do about it. And that has been the most significant change for me, like going from having a real blame culture and mentality within me to suddenly going, do you know what? That may have happened. However, it doesn't define who I am. How I react defines who I am and what I do. And it's been that transition which has completely like opened my eyes to what's possible. And I believe it's the reason why I've been able to change so quickly. I don't know what your take is on that. I know I began that starting off pretty much dying as I was drinking, but it was slightly different to what you were saying, but I thought it'd be quite good to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, because all of these things, so again, it's what we choose to do, isn't it? So we can either choose to see, oh, all these things have happened to me, or we could choose to find a lesson in it and learn from it. And it's like the concept of failure that I kind of don't have that word really in my vocabulary anymore. I've tried to train it out of me because we have this whole thing about failing or failure and it stops people. The minute I change that into this is feedback and learning, that's just helped me massively move forward. And so therefore, it means I don't react emotionally in the same way that I did to when things go wrong or worries me. It means I respond differently because I see that differently now. So, yeah, I mean, I think take the life experiences, because we all have them, life experiences that can fuel you forward rather than hold you back.
I love that. Absolutely. I'm going to snippet that bit out because that's going to be really, really good. But I think changing the subject slightly, you mentioned this online coaching world, right? And I think it transitioned because again, our views on this are very much, I guess, very similar from our previous conversations. But I've seen you talk about this recently. I think it was even today or yesterday. You did a post around this online coaching space and how I really, really liked how you said there wasn't a defined process for solving it because we're all unique and we're all different and we're all going on different journeys. And then you spoke about it from just your own experience rather than this is the way. I spoke about this about a month ago. It's back in August, actually, 2 months ago, around people speaking with such certainty around the ways to do things. We're both in business, so let's use that as the example, the ways to grow your business or the ways to overcome a certain problem. Now, I saw you do the post around the fact that you have a bit of an opinion on this online space right now. I mean, what is that opinion? Because I think a lot of people need to hear, especially what I heard. I completely agree with it. Your voice on this, because you've not only coached yourself, but you've been through a process of being coached by multiple people and gone through different programs and on that sort of. But what's your view? What's your take on the whole subject in general?
Well, I think the whole thing, especially because of the pandemic, there's just been this like growth in online coaches, hasn't there? And the problem is that the coaching industry is not regulated. So literally anybody can create an Instagram account or whatever and call themselves a coach and start, selling people stuff. And what I've discovered, because I'm so sick of it, is more because I'm so sick of seeing the ads on my feeds, like on Facebook and Instagram. They're all the same. So how, spot the fake coaches, really? They've all been to the same funnel school or story school or whatever. They're all using the same story and the same marketing tactics, if you look at it. And their story goes something like, you might be familiar with it, every life was shit. I'm penniless, I was broke. I didn't know what to do. I was about to lose my house. I tried everything. I'd invested hundreds of thousands of pounds in all of these coaches and programs. Nothing was working until I discovered the process, the system, the steps, the strategy that's made me a millionaire, and the selling this, financial freedom lifestyle kind of dream that, a lot of people, they just think it's easy and they go, oh my gosh. And they're showing often, I think, fake pictures, lifestyle pictures. Look at me on, everything looks amazing and my life's brilliant. And I launched, a multi-7-figure business, with my system. And then they say, this is the bit that really bugs me. And because I've told you this before, I'm sick of hearing it. There's nothing special about me. You can do it too. If you buy my 10K program, but here's the disclaimer, you have to put in the work. If you're not getting the results, you're not working hard enough, and it's all on you. And I am absolutely sick of seeing it, because if you go and check out, look, I'm not having a go or an attack at people that are genuinely offering value. And there are some of these systems that are doing that, but they're few and far between. It's just that everyone's copying this now. There's no regulation around it. And if you go and check out, because I've done it loads of times, I've been taken in by it, had experiences where you think, oh, this must be the bit that I'm missing. And it isn't. And honestly, it isn't. But if you go and check out then their Instagram following, and you kind of think, oh my gosh, they've got hundreds of thousands of people, they must be good. But then if you dig a bit deeper, you can see points at which they've bought, tens of thousands of followers and stuff. Or here is all my testimonies. So I'm starting to call those testimonials now, because literally anybody online, you can write anything, can't you? You could write anything, or you could get your mate to pose in a picture or whatever. So you can see how animated I get with this, because it's literally because the number of people also that I speak to, and I've helped actually afterwards, where they felt really low, they've spent tons of money, they've been told things, they've been made to feel bad. Their systems, it's not that, everybody, there's not a one size fits all system, I don't believe. And also with experience in marketing and building businesses, really depends on where you are in your business journey, or what you want to achieve, or how much investment you've got. And a lot of these people are selling like a one thing only, like how LinkedIn will get you all the leads you could possibly imagine and grow your business to 6 figures, or how, I don't know, you can get so many followers on Instagram and then, grow your business. These are all parts of an effective kind of marketing strategy, but one of those things on its own is not going to transform your business, especially if you're going to invest 10K in it or whatever. And it really is irritating me now. So I've kind of a bit on, I get on missions with things, and I have a Joe rant, don't I? I do my Joe rants every now and again. I'm on a bit of a rant to kind of change this, or at least wake people up to it, you know, because it's not fair that people are getting deceived, I think, out of their hard-earned cash.
It's a tough. It's what swayed me away from becoming a coach, because I've said that, right. I don't believe I am anything special. Right, we've had this conversation before, right? That specific statement, I say it because I actually, coming from a point where I'm a very, very average student, GCSEs, C's and B's, I got 1A. A levels, I failed. I did an accountancy like foundation degree. I got myself through that, and then I got into work, and then I've just basically studied communication. That's kind of what I've been working on. And I remember when I did the follower challenge, I went through that process of the price stack, the webinar process, the talking about like how growing a following changed my life. And to be fair, still to this day, it did. That Instagram following has done more for me than Jesus I could ever quite contemplate. Like even the Instagram agency, after I got rid of that business, I haven't got rid of it, I've just adapted it, to be fair. But ever since I adapted it, it still generates me business, right? But this whole process, like I've spent so much money on learning this stuff, looking for that silver bullet. And everybody, like I taught skills, to be fair, like it was how to grow a following. It was how to create content now. Now it's how to like use LinkedIn, because that's the platform that I now use the majority of the time. Then it's personal branding, and then it was authority building. So it's been different skills that we've been going through throughout the time. But I remember looking for this silver bullet, the thing that was going to change everything. Because I'm looking at all of these people online, and they are success. I can't knock it. They've got money, right? I deem success as wealth and financial riches. I look at it, and they had the girls, they had the cars, they had the houses, they had the holidays, they had the lifestyle that I want. So I'm like looking at that and going, well, they must know what they're doing. And it is a trick, right? This is all perception. It's all managing perception. Now I'll talk about another example of this in a second, which goes on in the corporate world day in, day out from what I see, like today, like literally even today going through a presentation. But they are giving you all of this hope. They're selling on hope. And I mean, I can use it if I want to. I can do it. I've done it in the past. I have tested it. It works, right? And now I was doing it on a £60 Instagram challenge. They're doing it on a £3,000, £10,000, £20,000 program, which I bought a couple of them. And what I've realized is, and this is the most ridiculous thing, is that it's all the same. Everything that they're teaching is all the same. Like whether it's paid media, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, into a coaching program, then into a mastermind, it's the same layout, just wrapped up in different paper, and you're just buying from salespeople. And it was on me that I bought it. I take responsibility. Again, I made the decision to buy. Now I'm just a little bit more clued up into what it is that I look out for in terms of this. So if there's a specific skill, not a lifestyle, that I'm buying, then I'm all in. So if it's how to do Facebook advertising, boom, okay. Well, do they run Facebook ads well? Yes, they do. Okay, I'll buy it. Do they use LinkedIn? Okay, yes, they use LinkedIn and they use it really, really well. Okay, great, boom, I'll buy it. Whereas before, what I was buying was how to build a 6, 7, 8-figure business, which are the terms that I can't stand. Like the fact that people deem success on revenue blows my mind, because again, if I wanted to take this business to an 8-figure business, all I've got to do is ramp up my advertising costs, not even joking here, ramp up my advertising costs to 10 million quid, and I can have an 8-figure business. It doesn't mean that I'm making 10 million quid. Actually, I probably could be losing. My property business was doing way over £1 million in a year. Doesn't mean I was actually wealthy from it, because I was spending more than we were earning. And I think this is the perception that we're going through. So I'm all for buying skills and learning skills, which is, I think, where the differentiation comes in.
Yeah.
What I don't agree with is that, and I sent you a message on this the other day, is that people that have been using these platforms or learning these skills for a couple of weeks are then suddenly putting and changing their job description to, I'm now a coach and an expert on this stuff. And I feel like jumping out of a window, because they may be able to teach somebody something. And I'm not disheartening the fact that they're going for it, whatever, but it's like this self-labeling of expert. I actually do have a problem, because I'm like, who defines it? It's just, woolly bullshit that you're naming yourself to try and stand out in a really noisy market. And I'm actually like, why don't you just be good? Why don't you just showcase how good you are rather than trying to tell and convince people how good you are? And I think that is where the people that have got longevity in these businesses and brands actually are going to have long-lasting businesses rather than a quick little cash generator. I don't know where we were going with this, but I think it's a fascinating conversation in terms of the way that I look at it. But yeah, I think your message is really goddamn powerful, and your personal brand's growing every single day with what you're doing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your personal brand. What are your thoughts on the topic in general? Is it important? Is it not important? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the first thing to say is everybody's got a personal brand, whether they realize it, like it or not. You have a personal brand because it's who you are, what you represent, and how you're showing up to other people. So personal branding for me is massively important because it's better to be, I guess, in control of it and manage it, you know, effectively than not. So, and it's so important, personal branding, especially if you are starting out in a business and you've not got a lot to invest in like other kind of marketing methods. Your personal brand helps you get ahead at work. It helps you open doors. It helps you build your network. It helps you build your business, generate customers and sales. So it gets confused a lot, I think, with this whole like celebrity influencer stuff. But your personal brand is less about that. It's more about, you know, showing up authentically as yourself, presenting yourself in the best way, but living that as well. So it's not just as you were talking before about, you know, show people how good you are. It's living that, you know, how good you are. But I think the problem for lots of people is they don't really know what they're about. And it's, so there's some work and they jump onto whether it's like a social media platform to generate business without really taking a step back to think about their personal brand. So before you start creating anything, and I believe this is why I've been able to build my personal brand quite quickly. I did some fundamental stuff first of all before I started creating things and before I had my message out there. Otherwise things just get really, really confusing for you and also I guess for the audience you want to serve.
Yeah, completely agree. I think when it comes to, I used to talk about clarity, I still do actually, like brand clarity. I was only having a conversation with a lad yesterday who runs a marketing agency. He's really, really talented at what he does. He helps other people with their brands, but struggles with it himself, like getting his own voice. And I think that is so common. I think actually it's easier to see what somebody else should be talking about rather than seeing what you should be talking about yourself. And you know what my thing is? My thing is about simplicity. And what I've noticed from God knows how many hours of scrolling through social media, like my life seems to be with my head in my phone at the moment. It's hardly a luxury laptop lifestyle. It's more of a in-house, in front of Netflix, mobile lifestyle when I'm watching content like that. But I think the biggest thing is it doesn't have to just be about what you do business-wise. And this is the thing that I've noticed the most. It's about being visible, just showcasing the stuff that you care about and you're passionate about. That's the way to unlock it. If your profiles are kind of like optimized in the right way, they should tell people what you do for you. They should do the job. What you create from a content side of things, and this is where I loved where, like, say, your like really high performing content piece in terms of vanity metrics and views. So what I've loved about it, because it's just come from stuff that we're passionate about and what you're passionate about and opinions that you've got that other people have just related to. It's not really been about motivation and all about Mojo significant. It's actually been about more relatable subjects than that.
And that's come from, so kind of if you think about it, there's no different, because I've got a lot of experience of building corporate brands, repositioning corporate brands. So there's kind of like, for me, 7 key things to think about. And some of my content, it comes from that. Values is one of them, but purpose. So what is your purpose? It sounds really cliche and a bit woo-woo, but if you define what your purpose is and what the purpose is of building your personal brand, that helps with clarity. And if you don't know how to do that, an exercise I did when I started out working for myself was to find my ikigai, which is this brilliant Japanese concept that translates into your reason for being, right? And if you Google it, you'll find the framework, and it's based on what you love doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you could get paid for. And it's like a Venn diagram that really helped me get some clarity. The purpose of building my personal brand, when I thought about it, was I don't have a lot of money to invest in marketing, but I need to attract people that I want to work with. I don't want to work with clients that are not going to be a good fit with me, it's going to be really, really difficult, and you're going to regret taking them on, and you're going to burn yourself out with it. So if I'm really clear about who are the people then that I want to attract, so stakeholders being part of it, who are your stakeholders? So who are they? i.e. clients, investors, employees, if you've got them, family, friends, all that kind of stuff. What do they want from you? But then values is massively important as part of this. And people talk about values, but this is where it really helps. So what matters most to you? So, corporate brands have all this, like, you think about certain brands, what is it you think about them? And it's the values in action or not, right? So what matters most to you? And you talked about, I had a couple of viral like content posts. One of them is this one where I've slapped lipstick on my face, right? In response to a troll. And it kind of went, 50,000 views on LinkedIn, and it went nuts. And I got loads and loads of inbound connections and leads from it, and I generated business from it. And it was not done like deliberately. It was in response to my values being totally at odds with a guy who trolled me because of my lipstick. And one of my values is fairness. And I thought, this is not fair. You don't know who I am. Who are you to show up on my feed, slag me off as a woman, wearing lipstick? You've got an anonymous profile. This is not fair. So it really went against my values. And therefore, I found all this energy and emotion around it to just, without thinking about it, create a little video and stick it out there, because it was who I stand for. So none of that was deliberately planned or anything. It was like, I'm living my values here. That's important to me. Hey ho, what happened? It was like been the biggest like viral post I've ever done, and I got business from it as a result of it. And the people that I've got business from, they relate to me, and we share the same values. So, there were some certain things like that. Your personality, that's really important. We've all got personality. So how do you show that and differentiate yourself? You think about brands like, British Airways and Virgin Airlines. They both do the same thing. You're transporting people in a piece of metal from A to B. Why, what do you think of personality wise when you think of British Airways? It's like safe and secure and whatever. Virgin, it's like a bit cheeky and risky and whatever. And that, that differentiates them. So there are all of these things for you that you can think about in building your own personal brand. How are you going to position? What is it you want to be famous for or remembered for, and own that spot? So if you think about BMW, theirs has been the ultimate driving machine, hasn't it? So it's kind of they're in a really competitive market space. How do they differentiate? They own that spot. What's the spot that you can own? So there are all of these sorts of things that you can draw on that just helps you get clarity. So therefore, that can inform your product, your strategy, your message, your content, but also your decisions. It helps guide you. It's like your moral compass for everything that you do. So if you're struggling, how does this fit with my personal brand or not, to make a decision? If you think about celebrities like Lady Gaga, it's so easy to know what she stands for, like her values, and she makes decisions on them, her creativity. She's got compassion and kindness, and that's when she chooses to work with brands, she uses her values to make those decisions. So I've got an awful lot to say actually on personal branding. It's so important to get really clear about your own personal brand and manage it so that you can build it and build your business.
Yeah, I always look back at the people that I closely follow. And this is how I've kind of started to learn about this subject a bit more. And people I find, especially right now on social, which is where we focus on mainly when it comes to like my personal brand, plus networking and speaking and et cetera, but social is where I see a really, really big opportunity. I have done for the last 3 and a bit years. It's how I've built the businesses that I have. Now, when I look at the people that have gone away and do it, it's less and less about the information, which is what you see so much of on these platforms right now. Like, I think they're more boring than they've ever been in terms of like the content that I see. Like LinkedIn right now, you go scrolling through it, 14 out of 15 pieces you just completely ignore because it's just the same stuff over and over again. And I think people have just lost the fact, or don't quite realize the fact, that we fall in love with the person, like, and who you are as an individual. It's not about, I have a client who will probably be listening to this actually, and I've spoken to him about it before, but he's in the photography industry, and he's like, wants to talk about photos and photos and photos and photos. And I'm like, look, people will realize that what you do over time, right? Your description, what your profile says, what your website says that we link to, we will do content around it as well. People will realize what it is that you do. That's a given if you show up. But to be able to get people to connect with you, to get people to be able to start to understand you, to start really wanting to follow you, they need to understand who you are as an individual and what you believe in, the values piece that you spoke about. And I think this is where it can be really, really simple to build a personal brand when you understand what they are. It's a hard thing to understand, but when you get it, it's actually really simple. So when I see Man United getting hammered on the weekend, I've got something to talk about because I feel connected to it. And that's an opinion thing that I've got. Other people will have positive opinions, other people will have negative opinions, but actually all I want people to do is to see my opinion. I don't care what they think in reality. I'll use it for feedback and all that sort of thing, but what they say directly to me, couldn't care less. That's not on me, that's on them. But I have my values around that. I'll talk about it because it's something that I'm passionate about. And all I want people to see is the journey that I'm going on, so they know who I am as an individual. And they then realize what it is that I do. And over time, they'll then reach out and they'll go, hey, look, I've got this problem that I know you can solve. You're the person I want to work with. Let's do some business. And boom, it happens. And I think people can get so tied up with social media marketing in terms of leads, revenue. How many likes have we got? How many impressions have we got? When actually, I couldn't tell you what piece of content has generated me business. I just know that all of them together over time, the different touch points that I've put out there, just generated trust. And when people trust you, they start to come towards you and start having conversations with you, unlike they would with somebody else. And we have won, I can't tell you how much business we've won from people just trusting the fact that of who I am, the fact that I've consistently been showing up, like being me, and also that they've seen the work that we do as a business and we're pretty good. So like it becomes really, really simple. Even though we're more expensive, they trust us in what we're doing. So I just get people to embrace it. Some of the things that we do in onboarding is like, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you love to talk about? What do you find yourself talking down the pub with your mates about? Or when you go out for some food with some friends, when you're over cocktail, what do you talk about? And we talk about this, we talk about that, we talk about this. And one of them was politics the other day. Like, great, like, let's talk about it. That's going to generate some opinion. Like, be you, talk about what you believe in, therefore the opinions don't matter. But that's just spiked a load of it. And people are now reaching out to her going, I didn't know you did this, because they've seen the content, engaged with it, gone to the profile and gone, well, actually, let's have a conversation. And then you find common ground with people. Oh, I saw you talking about this. This is what my thoughts are. And it's so much easier. Like business, I've said this on a podcast the other week. Business for me has been, and I hate to say it, but like in terms of generating it, pretty easy. And I don't throw that word around lightly, but it's because I don't have to convince anyone. Like they come and they're already in. Like I actually ask people now when they come on a sales call with me and they're like asking me questions. I'm like, can I just ask a question? It can just be really, really blunt, because your answer is going to determine which way this conversation goes. Have you already decided you want to work with me? And this call is just to kind of like iron out and tick a box? Or do I need to showcase a little bit more about what we do to be able to really highlight where we could probably take brand? No joke, 9 times out of 10, we've already decided to work with you. We just wanted to get to know you a little bit more. Boom, okay, great. This is what we now need to do. The 1 times out of 10, that's when we go to work. We then go into a little bit of consultancy work and we go down it that way. But people normally, if you do this right, have already decided that you're the person they want to work with. You just need to get this bit right to make this bit easier. I've gone off on one again, you know.
No, and I think what you're also describing, because it's kind of reminded me, it's a brand concept, or part of a branding concept, which is identity, right? So when you're creating your brand identity, what are you doing? You're telling stories. This is your whole thing about I'm documenting what I'm doing, I'm showing what I'm doing. You know, it's those kind of stories, because people connect with stories more than they do with like facts and data and all of that kind of thing. So I think the more you do that, I think what it does do though, what I have noticed with a lot of my clients, and I felt it myself, is that lots of people feel uncomfortable about, they think that, am I oversharing? You know, so social media overshares. Well, it's not social media that overshares, it's people that overshare. And so, you know, finding your confidence to do this, take that from your values, like you said, take it from what you're passionate about, because when you really believe in something, that confidence issue falls away. When you're really clear about something, about who you are, what you're offering the world, and you totally believe in it, that confidence thing, the problem with confidence goes away, you know. So there are lots of other things, which is why I also, going back to what we were talking about earlier, frustrates me about, here's the one method and process that, you know, coaches offer, because there's so much more to it, not just like there's not one strategy, but it's also how you have the confidence and self-belief to execute that as well, you know, and to apply that. Because any strategy actually probably could work for you if, comes back to Mojo, always comes back to Mojo. If you've got your Mojo and you've got your confidence and self-belief to do it, then you will fly. You know, your performance will improve.
It brings us nicely to a close. Now, I've got 2 questions left, though. 2 questions before we finish. Number 1 is a quick fire one. Might take a little bit of thinking, actually. I've thrown it on you. What's your one biggest lesson that you've learned since starting in business?
To believe in myself. It's a massive thing.
That, for me, it's huge, right? I mean, has there been a moment where that clicked, or has that just been something which has been nurtured over time?
I think lots of experiences that you have where, for me, I was in that comparing game, like looking and kind of thinking, everyone's doing better than me, why can't I do it? And, you know, all of those sorts of things. But lots of those experiences that you have, when you actually, you know, when I actually thought, do you know what, I can do what I'm doing. I'm really good at it. When I tell myself the right stories and retrain my brain, that, and when I had a mentor, so you being my mentor, you helped me believe in myself as well. So that is the biggest thing I would say. That self-belief is it can be so difficult for a lot of people. But once you believe in yourself, everything happens from there.
I love it. And then the final question, what's next for you? Because I heard you talk about the other day that it's all about being happy and having fun, right? But what's next for you? Do you have a plan? Are you taking each day as it comes? Have you got something that you're working towards? What's the, I guess, the plan for Mojo Jojo as we move forward?
Mojo Jojo. Well, to be fair, you know, we overcomplicate a lot of this strategy stuff for our businesses and plans and all of that. So what I've chosen to do this time is to base my big business goal on having as much fun as possible. So that sounds like so random, but actually everything falls back from that, comes back from that. So on the days where, doesn't mean to say I've not got my numbers in my spreadsheet and, you know, all the targets and things. However, to help me achieve it, it's like, well, how do I make this fun? You know, on things like I hate the numbers and spreadsheet stuff, or maybe I hate the outreach stuff. So how do I make this fun? So that's in terms of my philosophy from a business going forward. Massive ambition I've always had and held back on is to write a book. So I've set myself a challenge to write my Mojo book in the next 30 days. So that's a big one. Hopefully that also helps with all the stuff around authority building and your personal brand and all that kind of stuff. But it's just something I really want to do. I'm not doing it for kind of those reasons. I'm doing it because I've always had an ambition to write a book and never done it. But also to grow my Mojo membership community, which is full of awesome women who haven't believed in themselves, but are growing businesses and their professional careers. And I take them through, you know, coaching and how to grow their business, but also create self-belief in the process, and do a lot more one-to-one and speaking out there, because pre-pandemic I was kind of speaking at conferences and events, and whilst that was a bit scary, I actually really loved it. I've done a few online things obviously during the pandemic, but I want to be out there more because I get my energy from people, and just meeting awesome people. And that's how I get inspiration. It's listening to people, talking to people. What are those anecdotes, all that kind of stuff when you're out there inspires you to just kind of improve yourself and your business performance.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I'll link everything into the show notes, everything that you've mentioned there. And where is best for people to get in contact with you if they do want to have a conversation around Mojo or just want to get in touch with you?
Well, they can either come and connect with me on Instagram, jobritton.mojo, or come and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Amazing. I'll make sure to leave everything in the show notes for people. So make sure you check the descriptions. If you're not already, please subscribe to the podcast. Like, this is something which I'm putting, again, a lot of time into. I've got some amazing interviews like Joe coming up on this. And again, I'm glad, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, this has been incredible in terms of the content that's been dropped on here from Joe. She is an expert at what she does. I don't like calling myself an expert, but I can definitely call other people them. That is where expertise really does come from, when you can call someone else it. Joe, thank you so much. It's been awesome having you. I know I've kept you longer than what we said, but I appreciate your time massively. And yeah, massive thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for inviting me on. It's been amazing.
See you soon.
Bye.